Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, Maseches CHULLIN Daf Mem Hey. We begin right on the top line, back to the gargeres, the trachea, the windpipe, which was injured. So we learn in the Mishnah that if it was snapped, it becomes treifa. How far snapped? Yesterday we learned that if it's mostly snapped, so the majority was cut, that makes it a treifa. Now let's say it was not cut, but you see it's full of holes. So the wall of the trachea is full of holes. It's punctured. Amar Vida Amarav Nikva Kignafa. It got punctured with a series of punctures, like a sieve, a bunch of little holes next to it. Mitzdarfim Laruba. Rashi explains. Mitzdarfim means you evaluate, you judge. If you would put those holes together, you combine them, you end up with a majority, right? Would be considered the majority of the circumference of the trachea. Then it is considered a treifa. Mitzdarfim Laruba. Okay, so the shear is rive, and here you can combine to get you to the a total of rive. Mosav Rav Yiram, you have a question. Why is it that you work with the majority formula? We have a Mishnah, Uba Gilgoiles. So we learned this the other day that by a mace, it is only going to transfer a tumah in the oil to anything under the same roof, if in fact the skeleton is for the most part intact, the skull has to be intact. Uba Gilgoiles, well, suppose it's missing. Skull has been broken and it's missing. Sheish bo nekav echad aruch. It has a long hole. Okay, so before we continue, the Mishnah explains that if there is a hole in the gilgoiles and it's missing some material because of the hole, how much must be missing to discount the tumah, to disable it from being matami ba'oil? Kimaloi magdeach. That's Beisham Shita. The size of a drill. And let's say it's not one single hole. Well, it's not a round hole, it's a long hole, or a bunch of little holes, a series of holes. Has a long, rectangular hole. Even if it has many, a series of holes. So if it totals between all the holes, the shear of a malay magdeach, of a drill hole, it now disables the tumah from the skull. Alma. So what do we see from here? Given the shiura malay magdeach, since the shiur, how much must be missing from that skull? Is a malay magdeach a drill size, right? Size of a drill hole. Likewise, when it's a series of holes, if combined, there's a total of a malay magdeach, yeah. Hachinami, it's the same about the gargeres in our sugi by the behema. Given the shiur ki iser, since we learn in the Mishnah later on Daf Nun Daled that if it's missing, there's a hole and there's missing material. If it's missing the amount of an iser, like a coin, certain coin, that makes it a treif. So likewise, in our story, why are we applying the majority, the roiv formula? You should apply the iser formula. Look, iser mitzdarfin. So just like if it's one single hole, the size of an iser of missing material, that will constitute treifa. Likewise, when there's a series of holes, see if the combined missing tissue equals an Isser, even if it's less than the majority of the circumference. So why is Rav connecting it to Roiv? Says the Gemara, Shtamitze, Rav Yirmiyah, who asked this question, was unmindful of a halacha. Had Amar Rabbi Chelbai, Amar Rav Chama, Bar Guria. He quotes Rav himself, Amar Rav, who explains. Depends which hole. Some holes end up with missing material. In some cases, it's just a puncture, but the material is still there. It's like still hanging, right? So he quotes Amar Rav, Nikavim sheish ben chisaron, it's from the ki'isor. You're right. If the gargeres experienced many punctures, from which there is missing material, mitzdarfen, they combine, they join, the ki'isor. So if we turn all the missing material, you have an isser worth, then it's a treifa. You're right. But if it's just cut through without missing material, such as our case, mitzdarfen l'ruba, that works on a different system. And it's just cut, it's just injured, it's not missing material. And therefore, just like when the gargeres was sliced, it's about roiv, it's about majority, the same over here. A different type of injury. Not missing material, it's just snapped, just sliced, just severed. And that explains why Rav tied it to the halacha of roiv. Omar Rabba Bar Bachana Rav Shimon Levi, Nitlo Heimenu Ratzua, Mr. Rav is the Isser. Likewise, if a Ratzua, a strap, a longish strap, a long and narrow strap was removed from the gargeres, so instead of it like being a round hole, this is the wall of gargeres, it was a longish strap of missing material. Again, we work with the Isser formula, Mitzdarefes the Isser. So you judge, you see whether if you would round off, you would circle, you turn the reconfigure the long strip into a circle. Would it be the amount of an Isser? Then it's a treifa. You have a question. What if it got a bunch of holes? And it's like a sieve, right? So basically, the halacha we discussed before, a bunch of little holes next to each other. What's the halacha? Amalei says depends. Depends to what extent. We already said nikavim sheish ben chisarn. If the holes affect an absence of material, there's missing material, then the mitzvah from the ki'isr, you see whether it equals an isr. But if it's just plain clean holes, without missing material, mitzvah from the ruba. Until it's a majority, it's still kosher, as we said before. Up until now, we spoke about a behemoth. What about by a bird? Baifa, mai. Now, due to its smallness and size, you cannot apply the same formula. You can't say, well, until it's missing an isser, it's okay. I mean, you have to present a proportionate type of formula. Mai, so what's the halach? What's the shir? Amar Bisal Rachmeni, l'didim mefarshili. It was explained to me enough from the Rebbe Lazar. Mekaplo yumanichoi al pi hakana. So you have a bunch of little holes, right? You take that section and you cut around it in a way that allows you to fold it onto the top, onto the opening of the kana. So suppose this is the kana, right? And you have an area which is full of holes. You take that area and you fold it over the top, and you see how much of the cavity is being covered by this perforated material. Is this perforated area with the material between the holes all together? Rashi says, you take that whole section which is perforated and you fold it over. if it covers most of the kana, it's treifa. Otherwise, it's kosher. To remember exactly what's what, nafya. Think about a sifter, which is made of an outer, frame covered by horse hair, full of little holes. So that's what you do to determine the extent of the injury. You fold it over the sides, and you see how much it covers. Now, how about this? Nifchasa kedeles. The gargeris experienced a flap. So let's say this is the wall of the gargeris. Instead of just a round hole, it got a cut in a manner that it folds. It's like a flap. So what is the shear over there? Amar Nachman, the shikon is iser. So this is the iser coin, right? You take a look and see if it gets inserted l'rachbay. The shikon is iser l'rachbay. L'rachbay means flying flat, right? So the width of the iser has to enter this area. And if the flap allows it to come in, right, then you know that the hole is big enough. Nistika, suppose the gargeris isn't missing, wasn't sliced along its width, rather along its length. Okay, so this is the round gargeris, and you have a slice going this way, along the length. And Rashi explains a big difference. Because if it's sliced along the width, chances are the animal, due to its pulling and maneuvering, will just exacerbate that injury. It's not going to heal. It's not going to recover. Versus if it was split along the length of the gargeris, where there's no pressure pulling apart the size of the injury, it can very well recover. So what's the shear? To what extent is it still okay? Nizdika. Amara afilu lenishtayr ba'elachuli achas lamal. Even if it went from top to bottom, and just a little bit on top of the gargeris that's intact. Chulya, Rashi says, is 3 rings. 3 rings on top. Chulya achas lamala, b'chulya achas lamata, and instead of 3 rings on bottom. So only the upper and lower extremes of the gargeris are intact. It's still okay. Now, Amrua Kameid Rabbi Yochanan. So the Chachamim quoted this halacha in the name of Rav to Rabbi Yochanan, who says it's okay provided you have a little bit on top and bottom to sort of frame it and keep it in place. Amar, he says, nah, machulya the kamer. Why are you talking machulya? It's not necessary. Ela rather, this is the correct halacha. Afil l'nishtayr be'ela mashu l'malo, mashu l'mata ksher. Even if it's just a drop of the gargeris is intact on top and on bottom, it's okay. Amrua kamei Rabbi Yochanan mishmei Rabbi Yochanan hachi. So when the Talmidim heard Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, they actually corroborated it with Rabbi Yochanan. He says, Rabbi Yochanan also said as such. That's how they presented to Rabbi Yochanan. He was very impressed. He said, Amar Lewis, he responded, amazing. Rabbi Yochanan was in Bavli. Rabbi Yochanan was in Eretz Yisrael. He says, Yadin Chavran Bavloi, our friends in Bavli, our colleagues. They're right on. They didn't understand the frushik yaitaima to explain the halacha in this manner, which is consistent with my opinion, which is the correct approach. Okay, Tana Reb Chiya bar Yosef, Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. So up until now we spoke about an injured gargeris. It was sliced widthwise, lengthwise, as a hole, a series of holes. Now, just in general, where in the gargeris is it suitable for shchita? We spoke yesterday about the veshet. How far up, how far down you can go. What about the gargeris? Where can you shecht? Tanya Reb Chiya bar Yosef Kamei, he presented in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Kol hasavar kol kosher l'shchita. You can shecht anywhere along the throat, anywhere in the gargeris, from the top to the bottom. Mitabas hakdoila, starting from the grand ring on top, which is the uppermost ring. So that's the starting point. Ad kanfei rea hatachtoina, until the little flaps of the rea, of the lung, hatachtoina, the lowermost. Now what does lowermost mean? See, the trachea starts at the throat, winds its way down into the lungs, and supplies it with oxygen, right? And then at the bottom, it gets enwrapped by the rhea, by the lungs, right? Which have all kinds of flaps. The upper flaps are called oinois, the lower flaps are called amois, imois. The main flaps are on bottom, the main section on the bottom, the secondary sections on top. And once you reach the little flaps on top of the lungs, that's the end zone. That's where you have stopped doing the shechita. You can't go past that point. Now, although the Gemara refers to it as a tachtoina, the lower, very nice. Why is it lower if it's the top of the rhea? A merabah means like this, because when you flip the animal upside down, when you hang it up. So now looking at the lungs, which are upside down, the flaps, which are situated on the top of the lungs, will now be facing down, hanging down, right? That's why it's called tachtoina. Amarava tachtoina shehi al, which is really the uppermost flaps, if you would hold the animal upright. Okay, so that's his point, that you can only shecht until that point, shani omer. And the point of emphasizing this is to explain that you can't go past that point. So although the trachea technically continues into the lung area, you have to stop there. That's really considered off limits. It's considered part of the lung arrangement. The part of the neck, which is visible, which is exposed, when the animal just conducts its regular business, extends its neck to pasture, to eat, that is considered trachea regarding shechita, but not below that point. But actually to honest, provided it doesn't, it's not forced, it's not stretched, it's not unnaturally stretched. So that's why you can only go until the lung. Because past that point, although technically there is windpipe there, but that would have to be stretched to leave the lungs and be exposed, and that doesn't count for makim shechita. Boy, Rav Chanina b'itema Rav Chananya. So Rav Chanina and some say Rav Chananya had this question. Ansa atzma mao. Suppose it so happens that the animal did extend itself, did stretch itself during the shechita. Nobody forced it, it did it. So if you shecht in that area which has now been exposed, mao, what's the halacha? Take it, we leave it unresolved. Yosef, Rabbi Yochanan, Shimon Lakish, they're both sitting, and they both concurred as follows. From amongst them, there was a halacha that was broadcast as follows. Anas b'simonim v'shachat psula. Okay, if he forcibly tugged at the simonim and exposed now an area which otherwise would not be exposed, v'shachat, and he shechted over there, it's psula. It's not naturally exposed. Next point, nikav hakana lamata ben achaza. As we spoke, the kana, the trachea, travels into the lower part of the animal, into the lungs, and suppose it experienced a hole, it got punctured below the chaza, below the chest area, which is out of the makam shechita. Nidan kareya. At that point, it is regarded like part of the lungs, part of the lung, configuration. In which case, just like in the lung itself, if there's a teeny little hole, it becomes treifa. Likewise, the kana has now assumed the rhea status, and just like by a lung, a little mashu of a neck of is treifa. Same thing with the lung in that area. Speaking about the chaza, is there a chaza? We know that a kohen receives the chaza, chest area, from a karban shlamim. That's his allotment. Where exactly is this? Zehareyas akarka. It's strictly the flesh facing the ground. The animal stands on its legs. Now, how far does it extend? Lamata, that's savar. So going down, meaning if the animal's hanging on it from its hind legs, so now the chaz is now no longer facing the ground. It's suspended, vertically. So the head of the animal is down. So how far down do you go? Adatzar, until the throat, the neck area. Lamala, the keres, further up, it's until the stomach, and that's the section given to the kohen. And you cut off also two ribs. So one rib from either side. some say 2 ribs from either side, and you add it to the package, and that's what you give to the kohen. V'zehu chazeh, that's the chazeh that you give to the kohen. Okay, pretty much finished, wrapped up with the gargeres. Now we move on to the next item on our treifa list. Nikaf krum shel mayach. Okay, so just recap. Psukas gargeres is an item mentioned in the Mishnah. Gargeres, the trachea, the windpipe, which was severed, mostly severed. That makes it a treifa. What about if it experienced some sort of hole? So if it's a hole that actually, with some missing material, then it's all about the size of a coin. If it's the size of an iser, then it's a treifa. And likewise, if there are a series of holes, so again we have to determine if there's missing material. Then it works with the iser shear. If it's just a clean hole, then if all the holes combined equal roiv of the circumference, then it's a treifa. Otherwise, not. By a bird, we explained you see whether the whole area covers most of the cavity. That makes it a treifa. We spoke about the flap on the gargeres. We spoke about a slit lengthwise, which is much less of an issue. Going to Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Yonasan, it's almost a complete slit will still be okay. We spoke about the parameters of shchita in the tzavar, how far up and down you can go. And we had an interesting insight that the kana itself can now sort of be transformed and be considered reya material once it reaches further down and travels into the lung area. Nikav krum shel mayach, says the Mishnah. So the membrane enwrapping the brain, there's a layered membrane. If that gets a hole, it's a treifa. Now, which layer are we talking about? The outer or the lower? Rav Shmuel, they both said, karma ilah. The Mishnah is referring to the upper membrane, where the hole was discovered. Although the lower membrane, which encases the actual brain, was not inkiv, did not experience a hole, that's already a treifa. But Amrilo, some disagree. Ad dinkiv tato. That it's only a treifa if the lower membrane, which actually encases the brain, experienced a hole as well. So now it's a flush hole all the way through, and then it's a problem. In order to be able to identify what exactly is this lower membrane, it's a chaysa de mitnach bei moicha. It's like a little sack which encases the brain. That's the lower membrane, and the as opposed to the upper one, which doesn't fully encase the the brain completely. Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana Amar Shmuel Levi. This is not the only location in the animal where you have this sort of double wrapping. You have it by the testicles, but kenegdoi, a similar type of membrane, you have bebeitzim of the zachar animal, nikarn, and then you can see clearly that double layer. There's the outer skin, and then there's the sort of thin membrane which enwraps it beneath. Omer Shimon Pasi, Omer Shmuel Levi, Mishmar Kapara. So, the brain, of course, starts off in the skull, but then it travels and it forms into a chut hashedra, into the spinal cord, and they work with different parameters. What constitutes a treifa on the brain doesn't necessarily constitute treifa by the chut hashedra. You see, the Mishnah says by the moyach, it's all about a nekev, right? A teeny hole is a problem, but by the chut hashedra, there it's dependent on roiv, if it was mostly snapped. So at what point, right, is it reclassified as chut hashedra? At what point on the route? It says it like this. Moyach, kol ma shebekedera, the part of the moyach, of the brain, which is in the kedera, in the pot, in the bowl, within the actual skull, Nidan Kamayach. That's treated like Mayach. And even a small hole makes it a treifa. Here's Chalimsha, once it starts traveling and forming into a spinal cord, Nidan Chut HaShidra, that's considered Chut HaShidra, where it's only treifa if it was mostly snapped, as opposed to a small hole. Would not affect it, it's not as sensitive, it's not as delicate. Now, good, so that's the parameter, but where exactly would you consider it to be the spinal cord? At what point is it called maschal l'mashal? It starts sort of forming into the cord. Amar Rabbi Yisrael Bar Chmeini, l'dim farsh l'minei Rabbi Shimon Levi, explained to Rabbi Shimon Levi very clearly. K'mishnei pulin, we turn to Talmud Bavli, there's like two little ballies, two little bean-like shaped features. K'mishnei pulin yesh, munachan al pi hakdera, which are situated at the opening of the skull. Okay, so it's very clear. Whatever is beyond that is called the, whatever's inside is called the brain. Beyond that is the chut hashedra. Right? Pulin from these, on the inner side of these pulin, kilifnim is considered like inside, that's like the mayach. Beyond the pulin, kilachutz is considered external, that's the chut hashedra. Upulin atzman in yedeh. But what about the material which is sitting between the actual pulin, nor inside nor outside? So he doesn't any of them, I'm not sure. But the Gemara says it's logical to say kilifnim that in fact it has the status of the brain, because it hasn't really left the confines. Rabbi Yirmiyah balak b'oifa. In fact, Rabbi Yirmiyah did a hands-on experiment on a bird. He checked his brain. In fact, he discovered these two ballies sitting at the opening of the skull. Continues the Gemara with the next item on our to-do list. Nikav halev lebeis chalale. Mishnah says if the heart was injured, a hole, and the hole goes all the way inside to the cavity, the beis chalale, that makes it a treif. Now the heart has many cavities, has one central one and a bunch of little ones. Boy Rab Zeir, I have a question, says Rab Zeir. Which one are we talking about? Lebeis chalal katan, even to the small cavity? Or lebeis chalal gadol, or perhaps only by the chalal gadol? Amali Abaye. Says Abaye to Rab Zeir, why are you even questioning? Why are you not sure? Mighty brother, what's the shayla? Mila Tnan, don't we have a similar halacha regarding the lungs? Reb Shimon says, a hole in the animal's lung is only an issue if it permeates all the way through. Reb Shimon until you see the hole traveling lebeis hasimpoinos, all the way into the little tubes that transport the blood. So, all the way into the middle of the lung. Now we know that there are many branches, many little tubes. There's one main one, but then it branches off. So which one are we talking about? The Amar Rabba, Bar Tachlib, Amar Bir Rabba, Amar Rav. We mean the central one. Achetinokel Simpun Gadol. The whole travels all the way to the main artery. That's an issue. So let's apply that same formula to the hole in the heart. Let's assume it's only an issue if, in fact, it travels into the main ventricle. Says the Gemara, you can't compare the two halachas. There's a slight difference in wording, which indicates a difference, perhaps. There it says simpoinos, multiple. Why multiple? Because all the branches feed into the main artery. That's certainly referring to the main one where all the little ones feed into or feed from, right? As opposed to by the leiv, it just says beis chalal lay, which is singular. So if it's plural, it certainly means the central one. But here it says singular, beis chalal lay, ktani. Who says it makes a difference? Mali chalal gadol, mali chalal katan. Perhaps it doesn't matter if the whole reaches the big one or the small one. They all make treifa, so we're not sure. What about the status of kana halev, which we'll discuss in a minute? We'll describe it in a minute. So there's a injury there. What extent makes it a treifa? Rav Amar, b'mashu, even a teeny hole. Shmuel Amar beruba, only if it was snapped. Beroiv, majority was snapped. Now, what exactly is this? What is this? Talking about a certain layer of fat. On the size and the walls of the animal. Says the Gemara. That's not essential to the life force of the animal. How can you suggest it means just the walls, the flanks? Ella, rather, we were talking about a different organ. The tube which is situated over the sides of the lungs, which we'll see in a minute, which actually feeds into the heart. And on that we have a machlekes. What makes it a treif? A teeny hole, only roiv. And the Gemara explains. Really, there are three separate tubes to speak of. You see, the gargera starts off as a single tube, single pipe, then branches off into three, each feeding a different organ. One travels to the heart, the other one to the lungs, the other one to the liver. And they have different halachas regarding what makes them a treifa. The reya, the one feeding the lungs, kareya is treated like the lungs. And just like by the lungs, even a mashu, a small hole, makes it a treifa. Likewise, on this kana, which is feeding the lungs, has the same status. The kakavda, likewise, the one feeding the liver, same halacha as the liver, which has a wholly different status. Only if it's completely missing, it's a treifa. Otherwise, it's okay. The liba plige, the one feeding the heart, that is subject to machlekes, to Rabbi Shmuel, whether it's a mashu or reiv. Mar barachia masni ipcha. According to Mar barachia, it's the other way around. The reya kakavda, the kavda kareya. The one feeding the liver, the reya, the one feeding the lungs, has the dinner of the liver. So that tube, which experiences just a hole, that's not a treif unless it's completely missing. The kavda, the one feeding the liver, kareya, is treated as delicately as the lungs. Even a small hole, small puncture makes it a treif. Now, how do you explain this? So they bring from the Piski Harid, one of the Rishonim. He says, you have to know the anatomy, but he says the kana of the reya isn't as delicate as the reya itself, because it's coming off the trachea, and therefore, a small hole wouldn't invalidate it. But by the kana of the kaved, he says that's coming right off the lungs. That's more connected to the lungs, and just like by the lungs, since they're extremely fragile, delicate, even just a little hole is critical. Same thing with this pipe. Okay. The liba pligi, but regarding the one feeding into the heart, that's the machlekes Rabbi Shmuel, as we explained. Azal Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef. So he went Amar Lishmata the Rav. So he presented Rav's opinion that by this specific limb, the kana lev, Rav considers it to be a treifa even with a small hole. And he presented this opinion Kamei the Shmuel from Shmuel. Amalei was very unimpressed. He says, he spoke very very sharp. He says, Yochem or Abba. If in fact this is what Abba, he called Rav Abba in a respectful way. If this is what he says, he's got to relearn the halachas. Layada b'treifas leklum, he has no expertise in treifas. He was very strong about his position. Okay, so we discussed the hole in the mayach, right? Machlekes, whether it's the upper or the lower. We spoke about the hole in the lave, going to Beis Chalolim. We spoke about the various holes that are found throughout the kanim and their respective shiurim. Okay, next on the list is Nishbar HaShedra. So the backbone snapped. And Rashi explains the issue isn't necessarily the backbone, it's more that the backbone protects and supports the spinal cord that runs within it, and that's the issue. So once the encasing breaks, inevitably the cord will break as well, and the animal will lose its whole support system, its whole nervous system. So Nishbar HaShedra, V'nifsek HaChut Shelo, it's a treif. Ton Rabbanan. Chut HaShedra shnifsek b'rubai. Chut HaShedra is a spinal cord. If it's mostly snapped, that's a treif. Rabbi Yaakov Omer, you don't need raiv. Afilu nikav, even a small hole is an issue. Rabbi Yaakov, in fact, Rabbi, in reference to an actual story, actual shaila presented to him, he passed like Rabbi Yaakov, who was very strict. that even with a small hole would make it a treif. We don't pass like that. So unless the chut was mostly snapped, it's not a treif. Okay, so fine, most. What is most? You see, the spinal cord has actual material, brain material, that, right? It draws from the brain, but it's surrounded by a piece of skin, some tissue, that encases it. So when we speak about mostly cut, what was cut? Encasing or the actual internal material? Even if nothing inside was damaged, just the skin around it was mostly snapped, that's already considered a treif. Some say, no, until the rave of the mayach inside was snapped, that makes it a treifa, even if the outer encasing is still intact. That's sufficient to make a treifa. The second opinion that says Rav Moichai makes it a treifa, certainly if Rav Oirei was snapped, if the encasing was snapped, because then the open injury would just allow the internal material to leak out. Of course it's a treifa. However, according to the first shita, that's only a treifa if the oir was mostly cut. Rav Moichai Mai. What about if just the moich inside was mostly snapped? What would happen there? Tashmai comes at right. Amar Nivli. He quotes Amar of Huna Rubai Shamru. When we speak about the Rav of the Chut making treifa, Rav Oirei. It's specific to the oir, to the encasing. That's an issue. But Mayach said this internal material, it's not a factor. It doesn't help, it doesn't detract, meaning it's not a factor at play because it's encased, it's enclosed. He was sitting in front of Rab. So they were presented. Rab was presented with a shaila, an animal who had a problematic chut hashedra, which was cut, which was severed, and he was checking the encasement, the skin. And then, after he discovered that the oir was mostly okay, was not roiv oiroi, so he went further into the internal area to check to see if the moich itself. So Rav says, so Rav Nassim Baram was checking, so Rav says this is unnecessary. As long as the skin around it is intact, then we don't really care about what's going on inside. So a severance of the moich inside is not a factor. But sometimes it is. If the internal material was damaged to such an extent, it would be considered treifa. What is that extent? Nisma reyach, puzzle. If it dissolved, you see it's liquefied. So even though it's encased, it's not functioning. It's not going to. Nismasmis puzzle. Likewise, this would be puzzle. Now, what exactly are these terms? Ezoi hamrocha. How do you define hamrocha? Ezoi hamsamas masa. What is the other thing? Hamrocha means kol shenishbach kitain. It's pouring like a pitcher of water. It's liquefied. You see, it's just swishing around inside. It doesn't do the animal much help. It's not. It's a treifa. Mas masa means kol yochel lamed. It's not to that extent, but the animal, the chut cannot be perched up. You hold it up, it sort of folds down because the material inside has been weakened and soft. Rashi explains that in these cases, although the oir, the outer layer, is still intact, but it's not going to help us much because of the this integration that's taking place inside. Eventually, it's going to spread to the whole thing, and it's all just going to fall apart. So if it can't support it, if it's bending, and that's a problem. What about let's suppose the chut hashedra can't be held upright because of its weight. So the material inside seems to be healthy and strong, but it's just a big piece of cord that's just folding over. What would you say there? Take it with you, unresolved. Bei Rav, in the base medrash of Rav, they said like this: Nismasmes puzzle, like we said before, that's puzzle, but nismasmes means that there was no softening, there was no disintegration of the cord inside. It's just that it got sort of pinched, it got thinned a little bit. So if this is the cord, the moich is supposed to go from side to side, fill it entirely, and you see some sort of pocket in there that's empty, a little on the side, a little empty. Kasha, that's okay. Maybe it comes a kasha. Rav Shimon Elazar Omer behema nismazme is moicha. A behema whose brain was nismazme, we assume means like got a little shriveled. It's reifa. As opposed to Rav who says this is not an issue. How you nismazme itma? to change one letter. It's not nismazmez with the zayin, it's nismasmez. It was liquefied. That's a true treifa. But just nismazmez, just a little thinning, that's okay. Aini, is that true that nismazmez is not critical? Well, Levi was sitting in the bathhouse. Chazil Gari noticed this customer, the Tari L'Reishay. So he's banged his head, strolling to the wall. Omar Levi was very concerned about this man. He says, "Ooh, nismazmez meiche." The brain of this person was nismazmez. Meiche, this person's brain was nismazmez. He's in a real serious situation. Lav leichai. Certainly, he meant to say that he's not going to survive. Apparently, nismazmez is life-threatening. Omar Bai loy masheni moiled. He didn't mean that it's life-threatening. He just meant to say it's going to disable him from bearing children. But of course, it doesn't relate to treif. Ad heichen chut hasher. Okay, so now the chut hasher, as we explained, begins at the brain, at those two pulin, right? Travels down the back, all the way to the tail area. At a certain point, once it gets to the tail area beyond the thigh bone, it sort of weakens and thins and branches out, and it is no longer considered critical to the animal's survival. The animal has other means of support, its thigh bones and all that. So at what point do we say it's no longer considered critical to the extent that the injury would constitute treif? What's the lowest boundary? Until what point the chut hashedra, until it starts branching out. So towards the back we have three branches. Chut hashedra travels, and towards the back, at a certain point, it starts branching off. One intersection, another intersection, another intersection. So until that point, it's critical, but past that point, it's okay. We're going to see later, we're going to pinpoint what's what. Rav Dimi Bar Yitzchak, there was a story of him sitting, he was interested in traveling to the town of Chuzai, and before that he wanted to clarify this specific halacha regarding treifos, I guess just in case he encounters it when he travels. So he wanted to know, what exactly is this term bein ha-prashos? Also, l'kamed Rabbi Yehuda, so he came to Rabbi Yehuda to learn. Amalei, he asked Rabbi Yehuda, l'chavli mar, could you please show me bein ha-prashos heicha? Where exactly is this bein ha-prashos? Amalei, he says, could you please bring me an animal? I'll show you. Hazil aisili gdi, bring me a goat. I'll be pleased to show you. Aisili gdi shmenas. He went and quickly got him a very fat goat. And they were short of time. They didn't have enough time to dissect it. So he was hoping that he would show it to him from the outside. He says, no, I can't. It's too plump. It's too fleshy. Amalei bliat fevli idea, the nerves and all that, the veins are too embedded. Bliat fe, too embedded, and you can't. It's not discernible from the outside. Liadia. He went back and he got a real meager one, a real thin one. Amalei says, no, that's too meager. Amalei blitant fe, the bones are too pronounced, and the nerves and all that are too embedded. You can't, you can't tell what's what. Amalei says, okay, let's skip the show and tell. I'll just verbally describe it to you, and you'll have the formula. Amalei ta'agmar gemara. I'll teach you gemara what I learned from my teachers. This is the system. Shmuel teaches us like this. The chut branches 3 times, right? One intersection, another one, and a third one. Achas treifa, the first one, ad achas treifa, until the first intersection, the chut is still considered vital, and the injury makes it a treifa. Shlish is ksher. Once you get to the third intersection, even even a severe injury is not an issue. The middle intersection, I'm not sure. Are we still in the woods or out? I'm not sure. Rabbi Yeshua, I'm still not sure what Shmuel meant. First, second. What do you mean exactly when he said first, second, and third? We turn to the next Amid. When you say until, you could mean until and inclusive, or until, up until, not including, right? So again, let's just describe this. We have the chut hashedra. Let's look at it like a straight, like a highway, right? And then at a certain point, it branches, right lane, left lane, but the highway still continues, the middle lane still continues. Then further down, it branches again, right lane, left lane, but the middle lane still continues, and we have a third branch off at the end. So when we speak about ad, until the first branch off? Do we mean until the actual intersection, right? But not past that point? Or are we including the section between the first intersection until the second intersection? Is that all considered ad achas, which is critical and a treifa? Ad ve'ad bechlal, ad and va'ad, that section is also included and considered primary, chut hashedra, or you can say up until and not included. So the first section is ad of the woods. Ad v'loy ad, but that ad, that section that we referred to, is not included. Is not bechlal, is not included. So we're not sure. But Rav Papa continues. Rav Papa, let's evaluate further. Suppose it's up until and not included. So even that first section is not critical anymore. At what point does that interchange happen? Pi parshanut. So, like we said, the chut hashedra is like a middle lane, right? And we have the branch offs. Now, suppose once you get to the branch offs, once you get to the intersection, it's out of the woods. It's out of the way. It's already weakened to the point that it's not critical. But what about the chut hashedra, the main cord, right? The middle lane, at where it meets, at the point where it meets, where it intersects. At that very point, where it's sort of branching off, it's touching the right and left lanes. Is that still primary, or is it considered out of the woods? Again, if the first area is already out, pi parshanut, the opening, the connecting point where it connects to the branch offs. What about that? So pi parshanut. Let's take the other approach. Suppose even that first section, right, is considered included. It's still primary, it's still core. Ad va'ad bechlal. The chut continues until and including that first section. Parsha atzma ma'u. What about the right and left lane? If they got severed, I understand that the actual cord itself is still considered critical and vital up until that second intersection. But what about the branches? What if they got snapped off? What's the halacha there? Do we say, they're secondary? Or no, since they're still connected to the core, who at that point is still vital, maybe they have that same status. What's the halacha? Tashmai comes at right to try to resolve this last point. Haparsha didn't kabasar. The branch off is considered like flesh, not critical. Let's assume it means the first series of branches, so we see it's not critical. Even the first series of branches. No, we're talking about the third series of branches at the third section, which of course is out of the woods. So we don't really have a resolution in our shaila. So until now we spoke about the chut hashedra regarding an animal. Ba'oifa, what about by a bird? How far down is it still considered chut hashedra to the extent that it's critical and would make it a treifa if injured? How far down? So it starts at the brain area, but then it makes its way back to the until the wings. Rabbi Yani Omer lamatam nagapayim. So below the wings, it's already not critical. Until between the wings. It means until the wings. Past that point, it's okay. Amar Ula. There was a story of Ben Pazi. I was standing in front of Ben Pazi. He was presented with a problematic bird with a shaila, with a cord that was injured. And he checked. He checked until the wings, and that's it. And at that point, he got an urgent message to come to the house of the Nasi. Shalach le the Bein Nasiya. He got a message from the Bein Nasiya. He got up and he quickly left without completing his inspection. I'm not sure why. Was it because you don't have to check further, because it's not important? Is it because you don't have to check further, in line with what we just said, that you only have to inspect until the wings? Perhaps it was just out of respect to the Nasi, but he was intending on coming back and finishing his inspection, so I'm not really sure what happened, so I can't really definitively determine based on this story. Okay, so let's recap this last section. We spoke about the chut hashedra that was nifsak berubai, which makes it a treifa. When a shiloh, whether it means the the skin around it, or it means the mayach inside. We had a story where we highlighted this the shita that it's the that's important and not the mayach inside. However, when it's totally dissolved and liquefied, that's severe disintegration, and that would disqualify the animal, despite the still appearing intact. We had various definitions of different conditions. In smasmeis, the smarech would be possible, but in smasmeis, just a thinning, a shriveling would be okay. We had a story of the Beis HaMerchatz. Now we went on to the boundaries of the chut hashedra, until what point is it critical, until the intersections. We had a whole discussion, to define the exact parameter of bein haprashis. Okay, all the best to you and atzlach.